Hello, and welcome to another video from 3.5 Archive. Today, we're going to be looking at the Living Spell template from the Monster Manual 3. Living spells are a unique type of template in that you get to apply them to a spell rather than a creature in order to get your monster. Living spells are a cool concept, and with hundreds upon hundreds of spells in D&D 3.5, the possibilities for such a monster are effectively endless. However, the Living Spell template is not without its issues. This video aims to fix the Living Spell template to make it a little bit more viable and help you make more challenging opponents for your games. To start off, let's look at what a Living Spell is. A Living Spell is an ooze type creature. It's based on a spell rather than a creature for its basis, and its size is determined by its caster level, with 1 to 6 being medium, 7 to 12 being large, and 13 and on being huge. It has a movement speed determined by the spell's range, which is a little bit interesting. Its armor class gains a deflection bonus equal to its spell level, and it gains a single slam attack as its only attack type, which, on a hit, inflicts the effect of the spell it's based on. Appropriately for a creature formed entirely from magical energy, the Living Spell has damage reduction 10/magic, and spell resistance equal to 10 plus its caster level. For its ability scores, a Living Spell gets Strength, Dexterity, and Constitution equal to 10 plus its spell level. It gets Dexterity and Wisdom equal to 7 plus its spell level, and it has no intelligence score, being a mindless creature. It also gets no skills or feats because of this. Finally, its challenge rating is equal to the spell level plus half the caster level rounded down, or effectively equal to its caster level in most cases. So, a Living Spell has a challenge rating roughly equal to the level of a spellcaster who would be casting it. As such, we should expect the creature's stats to roughly line up with its caster level as its challenge rating. But the Living Spell falls short in a lot of regards. Let's take a look. Armor class is the easiest to evaluate. In the monster creation section of the Monster Manual, it says that a monster's armor class should be equal to its challenge rating plus 13. A Living Spell's armor class, on the other hand, is equal to 10 plus its spell level, plus its dexterity modifier, which is equal to roughly -1, plus half its spell level. Meanwhile, its armor class should be increasing at a rate equal to double its spell level to keep up with its challenge rating. Oozes already tend to have lower armor class, but they also have far more hit points to compensate than most monsters, with a spectacular constitution score to complement that. To put it another way, let's look at a Living Spell based on a 9th level spell, which would have a minimum caster level of 17 and thus a challenge rating of 17. According to the Monster Manual, such a monster should have an armor class of 30. However, such a monster would have a +9 deflection bonus to armor class and a dexterity of 7 plus 9 for 16, if it was a Living Spell. So that Living Spell would have a measly 22 armor class instead of 30. That's 8 points lower than it should be. This effectively means the party fighter can sink 8 more points into power attack and deal an extra 8 or 16 more damage per hit. Assuming a 3-round combat and a fairly unlikely just 1 hit per round, that's an extra 48 hit points this creature needs just against one party member in order to compensate for its terrible AC. As for hit points, this creature should have 1 to 3 times its challenge rating in hit dice. In order to make up for its low armor class, a Living Spell ought to have hit dice greater than its challenge rating, but instead its hit dice are equal to its challenge rating, and its ability scores do not scale well. In fact, the Monster Manual lists a minimum strength of 24 for huge-sized creatures, but a caster level 13 Living Spell would be huge size, yet could only have a strength of 17 at most, since the highest spell it could be based on would be 7th level. And we find this to be true in the Living Blasphemy, which is challenge rating 13, huge-sized, but only has a 17 strength. One could say that the spell effect attached to the slam attack is enough to make up for its weakness, but a spellcaster of equivalent level would have the same challenge rating, while being able to cast that spell without needing to hit in melee first, and also having access to other spells as well. One thing I've not mentioned up until now is that the ooze has an engulf ability like many other oozes do, which allows it to potentially affect many creatures with its spell effect in one turn. This helps, but it still leaves the monster defensively weak, and if it loses initiative, it likely won't even get a turn. Any fighter who hears ooze will immediately drop most of his base attack bonus into power attack and slash this creature to pieces in a single round. Being immune to precision damage, critical hits, and mind-affecting abilities is nice, as well as having spell resistance and damage reduction to boot, but it won't be enough to keep these creatures alive long enough to pose a significant challenge. A simple NPC fighter from the NPC tables in the Dungeon Master's Guide is only hit by the Living Blasphemy on a 15 or higher, and it only gets 1 attack. The fighter gets 3, and even with only a 4-point power attack, will hit almost every time and deal an average of 25 damage per hit, for around 52 damage per round. Given that this monster only has 110 hit points, it's extremely vulnerable. So we've outlined the ways in which the Living Spell template leaves a creature far too weak for its challenge rating. The question is, how do we fix it without overcompensating? Well, to start, it's kind of hard to overcompensate in the first place. A level 13 wizard is CR 13 and can cast multiple kinds of spells on their opponents to fit the situation, as well as preparing themselves beforehand with greater invisibility, displacement, fly, or mirror image, along with a variety of other potential defensive spells. This may seem like a bad example, but keep in mind that many other monsters come with spell-like abilities that they're supposed to use, sometimes even before combat. A living spell has one, maybe two spells if you use the potential hybrid template example. A wizard won't have the greatest armor class, but a wizard also doesn't have to get into melee to use their spells. The ooze type makes sense, but the living spell needs better ability scores. Oozes aren't supposed to have great dexterity, and actually living spells are among the most dexterous oozes in the game, so improving the creature's dexterity and wisdom actually doesn't make much sense. Instead, consider increasing the creature's deflection bonus to AC to be equal to its full caster level. This would give our challenge rating 17 living spell an armor class of 30, assuming its dexterity stays the same, which is right where it should be for its challenge rating, and is the maximum it will be relative to level. Capping the possible caster level for this creature at 20 might be a good idea, or making it double the spell level to be sure. Yes, that will give it a slightly above rate armor class of 31, but remember that these oozes have mediocre hit points still. Let's go back to the Living Blasphemy and compare it to another creature, the Glabrezu Demon. This is an interesting comparison because both of them are CR 13, and while the Glabrezu cannot cast Blasphemy, its weaker cousin, the CR 11 Hezro Demon, can. The Glabrezu has 174 hit points and 27 armor class, and the Living Blasphemy's 110 hit points and 17 armor class is a pretty paltry comparison. The Glabrezu hits at plus 20 instead of plus 10 with multiple attacks, whereas the Living Blasphemy only gets one. The Hezro, at 2 levels lower in terms of challenge rating, has a 23 armor class and 138 hit points, and it can cast Blasphemy 3 times per day, not even needing to hit with a melee attack to do so. And both of these demons come with the ability to teleport and cast other spells, while having better damage reduction and better spell resistance. While challenge rating is never a perfect metric, and in fact probably shouldn't be, a monster with such staggering shortcomings just won't provide a satisfying battle for the players, nor will it give the template the power it deserves. Living spells are a very cool concept. As such, it might be a good idea to start their strength and constitution at 11 plus their caster level, allowing it to range from 12 to 28, and keeping the scores within the boundaries suggested in the Monster Manual Monster Creation Guide, based on their size. It will also give them more striking power in melee. With these changes, the Living Blasphemy would hit at plus 15 instead of plus 10, dealing 1d8 plus 10 damage, and having 162 hit points instead of 110, as well as an armor class of 25. This puts it on par with the Glabrezu Demon stats, while still having far fewer tricks up its sleeve. It still doesn't have iterative attacks, and while its engulf ability can be nasty, it's a challenge rating 13 monster. It should be nasty. And even with engulf, it likely won't be able to engulf an entire party at the very least. These changes also work well at lower levels. The Glitter Fire Living spell, presented at challenge rating 6 instead of challenge rating 5 because it contains 2 spells, would have 16 AC instead of a 14 AC, and would have 37 hit points instead of 32. Hardly a huge spike in power. Admittedly, these creatures will always be stronger at lower levels, but that is a natural consequence of the template, and an experienced DM can judge for himself what his group can handle. So, to sum up, the best way to improve the Living Spell template is to change its deflection bonus to AC to be equal to its caster level, and to change its strength and constitution scores to be based on 11 plus its caster level, instead of 10 plus its spell level, which is basically half the bonus. Keep in mind that as spell level progresses half as fast as caster level, and abilities bonuses progress only half as fast as ability scores, the Living Spell is getting a bonus from it only once every 4 additional hit dice, and combined with only 3/4 base attack, its ability to hit is severely lacking. With these changes, you can turn your Living Spells into hair-raising encounters that will have your players fearful of what spell you'll choose to turn into a monster next. So that'll be about it for this video. Let me know how these changes work for you. Have you found any spells that truly break the Living Spell template, and would you not want to use this powered up version of the template with that spell? Let me know in the comments below, and please like and share and subscribe to the channel as well. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time, here on 3.5 Archive.